the biggest problem with this about 15 years ago, really, so we could diversify, because we haven't got a big farm, so we need another enterprise. And as the years have gone on, we've gradually grown more, and we've got a good market for it, and it's now become our main enterprise. It's very, very labour intensive, and obviously getting labour these days it's not easy, and also you've got to have people that know what they're doing. So we're very fortunate, we've got a good gang of chaps that help us, and they all know what they're doing now. So it's it's okay, but without them we couldn't do it. It's as simple as that. That's why not many people do the job, because it's so labour intensive. We grow it the same as normal crops of corn, except we don't put very much fertiliser on it. We grow a long strawed variety. This one's called a quilla. It's not available anymore, so we have to keep our own seed. And as you can see, it's probably quite green. It looks quite green, but the idea of that is two reasons really. Straw's got plenty of straw like this. It's got a lot of oil in it, and when it dries naturally in the stuck, the oil stays in the straw, and therefore it weathers much better on the roof. But if you let it get right and cut it, it would be all dry and brittle, and all that oil would have gone. And also, cutting it green, you don't lose any, the grain doesn't shed out when it goes up to the binder and when you haul it in. Oh, the dog's, she's interested because there's obviously a lot of mice out here. And she's just sniffing around after mice.
Farming was always labour intensive, but as agriculture modernised, many people were put out of work. For a few months every year, this farmer has reversed the trend. Growing a crop for thatching needs many workers to get the crop from the field to the thatcher. The wheat is cut before it is fully ripe. This holds the natural oils in the straw, making it more durable and waterproof. It's a long process, and on a hot summer's evening presents a postcard scene that is not often witnessed in modern Britain.
Today, arable farmers use the combine harvester to gather in the crops. But some farmers have gone back to the more traditional method, to cut with the binder and then stack and store until winter, when the thresher would arrive. The reason for this is the increased demand for thatching straw. The straw is tied into sheaths for storage, ready to be fed into the thresher where the ears of corn are taken off. But more importantly, the straw is left undamaged, ready for the thatcher. A few days ago, the thresher arrived here on the farm and I was here to watch it at work.
Only a few of these threshers still exist, and because of the demand for this type of straw, they tend to be working flat out during the season, and each machine needs a lot of people. As the sheaves are passed from the barn, the string binding them is cut. The wheat is then teased out and fed into the machine for threshing. It has to be fed in slowly so that it all goes through easily. The separated husk is blown out along a pipe and into a trailer. This is of little use and will probably be burnt or buried. The threshed grain falls to the bottom of the machine, where it is sifted and lifted up into a separate trailer. The grain is actually a byproduct. Because of the increased market, the straw brings a better price. A big drive belt from a tractor powers the whole thing. It would of course have been driven by a steam engine originally. The great thing about these machines is that you can see a lot of the moving parts, and you've got to watch yourself when you're working around it. It takes no prisoners. The modern combine still works on the same principle as this old machine. The good and the bad straw come out of the back of the thresher. The short and broken stuff is gathered up and fed into a baler. This will be used for bedding for the sheep or cattle. The good straw is formed into sheaves. In the early days, the sheaves would have been made into stacks on the farm. These stacks were built onto staddle stones. Every year, a master thatcher, often called a journeyman, would visit the farm in order to build these stacks. Thatching is a skilled job even today. These mushroom-shaped stones formed a good base, and the cap was there to stop rats and mice from climbing into the stacks. Now you can only find them in garden centres. The sheaves, now empty of grain, are gathered and stacked in a big modern barn with plenty of airflow. This stops the straw from heating up. Here it will wait to be collected by the thatcher later in the year. Because of the way it is stored today, mice can be a problem.
Yes, we're working in Woodford Valley, which is very near the Wiltshire Downs. And talking of Wiltshire Downs, we're right near Boscombe Down, which is a very noisy place. We get planes flying over here all day. Although this is a very nice place to be, unfortunately it can be very noisy. Today we're thatching a new extension, which is held on by rods and crooks. The crooks go into the main timbers, which holds the rod down and clasps the thatch against the roof. I can say that this is very hard on the hands. I really should have a palmer on, but I've forgotten it and left it on the ground. But watery can be very hard on the hands. But what we're doing here is we're dressing in the gable end, putting the rod on. Once we get that rod on, we should then be able to put a crook in, which if you don't get a crook in it quick, it just slides off the roof. Right, well the crook is just an iron spike which goes into the main timber or the rafter through the rod, which pins the thatch to the main roof. Just hammer that crook in, and that should hold the thatch in place. And what we will do is just give it a little bit of a dressing with a legget just to finish it off, just to get a little bit better finish on the end. Legget we make ourselves. We've got aluminium runners from the old curtain rails. They work very well indeed. Some thatchers just like to have a hole drilled into the legget, or even possibly sort of horseshoe nails. But we prefer to have these. It does a nice job to dress the roof up. That's what gives you basically your finished thatch. We need another.
I'm on the final stages of the roof on this side. As you can see, I'm doing a ridge. This is a raised ridge with a straight edge when we finished, and I'm just putting on the top course and holding it down with a ligger, and that's being pinned in with hazel spars. But when you're on the ground, you want these liggers to be as straight as possible, so it looks pleasing to the eye. I should be moving on to the next bit.
I started off life as an apprentice jockey, and I did that for about a year or so. I left that and worked in a factory for a small amount of time. I was then invited to speak to a master thatcher who wanted to teach me how to thatch. From there on, I have never looked back. He taught me how to thatch, and I took an apprenticeship for about 5 years. I then worked with another thatcher for a couple of years as a partnership. He then decided he wanted to go his own way. So then I thought, well, it's time now. I'm in my big wide world. It's best I go my own way and become a master thatcher in my own right. So I then went out and picked up my own work and joined the Master Thatchers. To do that, you have to have a word with the Master Thatchers Association, so which I had a word with the National Society of Master Thatchers. They come out and check your work out, take a couple of pictures perhaps, and check your work. And if they feel that you're good enough, then you become a Master Thatcher. Well, everyone knows all about thatching, or think they know about thatching, but in fact they don't know all the types of material we use. We do have several types of material. There's comb wheat straw, which is grown in the fields as normal, like you would wheat reed. There's an average bundle there. You've also got water reed, which comes from, would you believe it, all over the world. It can come from Hungary, Turkey, France, and of course Norfolk. Now, this is a new material that's just come onto the market, which comes from South Africa, which is veld grass, which is grown in the veld lands of South Africa. No one really knows what this material will do in this country, but I think the idea is that it does look a little bit like comb wheat reed once it's on the roof. Comb wheat reed has become a little bit scarcer over the last few years because of the weather conditions we've been having in the summer weather. Obviously, when you get a lot of rain, it does actually turn it black, and the farmers had a lot of problems getting it combed out. Therefore, there's been quite a shortage in the last few years. There's about 101 tools we need for this job. Right, okay. Well, we're all getting hungry here, Stuart, so I think we're going to stop and have some lunch. That side, and I'm sure the comb wheat reed that side from the main cottage. And then just bring it up under the leg and do a little ridge underneath like we're going to do on the other side there.